Why do you think there are people in MAGA who feel strongly, as Tucker do, that this is a bad idea? Is it about their analysis of facts? Is it about their feelings towards Israel? What separates someone like Tucker from someone in MAGA who's more supportive?
Well, I certainly, I mean, and again, I'm not going to put words in Tucker's mouth,
Yeah.
but I think
Just
that
anybody who's typically supportive of the president who isn't on this, what animates them?
And I do think that Israel and people's views of Israel does serve as a proxy for whether or not someone's supportive of this type of action. Obviously, people piggybacking off of Marco's statement last night, the Secretary of State's statement regarding the timing of when the operation took place and saying that Israel played a role in that. I think that's been spun up very, very much bigger than what he was probably trying to actually say. It was more about the timing, not about the actual decision to go to war. And I think that we're seeing this generational divide. This is something that Charlie Kirk talked about quite a bit, and he knew Gen Z better than anybody because he would spend up to 4 hours at a time on campus talking to Gen Z, talking to students, talking to these types of voters that would come out. And you see this huge divide when it comes to not just Israel, but also American intervention anywhere in the world, because they don't want, you look around maybe like 40, 45, I think is where you draw the line. And under that line, you get people who say, I don't want anything international. I want arrests on Epstein. I want deportations, and I want economic relief. And that's what really brought them to the ballgame in 2024, as well as so many of those low prop voters that turned out for Trump, that turned out for Vance. Those are the type of people that are going to be opposing this. Whereas your typical, your older, more establishment Republican, more middle of the road Republican, I guess you could say the traditional Republican is generally going to be for this type of action.
Okay, I'm going to play two sound bites, and then we're just going to go to your questions. So please raise your hand. First, Jack mentioned Secretary Rubio's comments yesterday. He today sparred with a reporter who tried to get him to sort of explain a little bit better what he meant by the role of American concern that there'd be an Israeli strike, and the Israeli strike would lead to an Iranian strike on American assets and individuals. Here is the Secretary of State, number 8, please.
You told us that Israel was going to strike Iran, and that's why we needed to get involved. Today, the president said that Iran was going to get.
Yeah, your statement is false. So that's not what I was asked very specifically. Were you there yesterday?
Yes, I asked
okay.
a question.
No, were you the one that? Because somebody asked me a question yesterday. Did we go in because of Israel? And I said, you were asking me that. You from that follow-up? And I said, no. I told you this had to happen anyway. The president made a decision, and the decision he made was that Iran was not going to be allowed to hide behind its ballistic missile program. That Iran was not going to be allowed to hide behind its ability to conduct these attacks. That decision had been made. The president systematically made a decision to systematically destroy this terroristic capability that they had, and we carried that out. I was very clear in that answer. This was a question of timing, of why this had to happen as a joint operation, not the question of the intent. Once the president made a decision that negotiations were not going to work, that they were playing us on the negotiations, and that this was a threat that was untenable, the decision was made to strike them. That's what I said yesterday, and you guys need to play it. And if you're going to play these statements, you need to play the whole statement, not clip it to reach a narrative that you want to do, all right?
All right, so that was the secretary as he went into a briefing for all senators. Senators have now come out of the briefing. They've said a bunch of stuff. We're going to play Senator Schumer, so you can cue that up. I'll just tell you what some of the others said. Lindsey Graham said the amount of firepower coming from the United States is devastating. Senator Blumenthal said he's more afraid than ever that America will have boots on the ground in Iran. Senator Fetterman said, pretty great, quote, that America blew up 80 mullahs. Here is Senator Schumer, the Democratic leader, number C, letter C, please.
Left the intelligence briefing more concerned than reassured. If the case for war were strong, it would be consistent. Instead, the rationales change by the hour. Regime change, nuclear weapons, missiles, defense, preemptive. Which is it? When the justification keeps shifting, a strategy is missing. There is no strategy.
Do any of the three of you think that if you had dinner with Senator Schumer, you could persuade him to support this?
No.
No? Jason?
Mind not open.
No. I think Senator Schumer's an interesting case because if you'll recall, he opposed President Obama's nuclear deal. And he took a lot of heat for that in the Democratic Party. So I think that if you had to pick any Democrat in the Senate, he would be one that would be more amenable and sympathetic to
Yeah.
kind of operation against Iran.
Jason, you're at Katz's Deli with him. You're having pastrami sandwiches, pickles on the side. What would your core argument you'd make to him to convince him to change and be for it?
I'd say, Chuck, these are, and I used to work for him actually, so that this works out well. I'd say these are people who have tried to kill New Yorkers. These are people who have tried to kill the President of the United States, former and current American officials, and have the blood of American service members on their hands. And they, on a daily basis, plot against the United States. They're a lethal, consistent threat against us. And diplomacy, unfortunately, has proved a failure for 4 decades. And that includes the JCPOA because the deal wasn't sustainable, as Senator Schumer knows well. So we have a limited set of tools. There are no happy endings here. And you know what? Sometimes we have to assume a risk in order to get to the better security order in the Middle East that we all want. And that is what I think President Trump's doing. And I think this should move beyond partisan politics. This is not a Republican issue. This is not a Democratic issue. This is an American issue. The Iranian regime doesn't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat. They care that you're an American. We may not want to have anything to do with the Iranian regime. We may want to have peaceful relations with the Iranian regime. But guess what? They don't want to have peaceful relations with us. And that's the issue.
I'll tell you, you can get 20% off Cozy Earth on everything on the site. The bubble cuddle blanket, the pants, the sheets, the towels, everything, 20% off. Just use the promo code 2WAY, 2WAY. I don't know that it matters when you type it in the promo code, but just don't spell it with lowercase. T, capital W, capital A, capital Y. That's our trademark. Spell it right. Buy some gifts for folks. Buy some stuff for yourself. You've seen the many, many photos we've shown here of the bubble cuddle blanket and dogs. Dogs love the bubble cuddle blanket. I can't explain it to you. I'd like to run a scientific test, but I can tell you anecdotally, do a focus group of dogs. Bring 12 dogs into a room, sit them around a conference table, throw a bubble cuddle blanket in the middle of the table. Every one of those dogs will get on there. Every one of them. Try it for yourself. Buy a bubble cuddle blanket, invite some dogs over. Go to CozyEarth.com, use the promo code 2WAY for a full 20% off. Refresh your routines with comfort that makes every day feel like a new year. CozyEarth.com. Hey, want to be part of the 2Way community all the time? Hit the subscribe button. Great video clips like this, plus conversations like no other, full episodes, and more, always available on this channel. You got to hit subscribe to never miss a thing. You can now listen to full episodes of The Morning Meeting and 2Way Tonight on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.